Welcome to Destination Marriage, a podcast about successfully navigating the winding roads of marriage. Whether you are looking to get married, you are engaged, newly married, or have been married for years, we want to share with you how we have successfully navigated those winding roads over the past 18 plus years.
Join us on this journey as we discuss real-life experiences, both highs and lows, and what we have learned along the way. Happiness, grace, passion are some of the things we all strive for in marriage, and we invite you to take this journey with us. Welcome to Destination Marriage.
Welcome to episode 14 of Destination Marriage. I'm Tommy.
And I'm Jackie.
And we are thrilled to have you join us on this journey today. We barely got here because Jackie just can't stop laughing at all my mess ups, but we're here. So, for today, it's back to school, or is it? We are currently in the middle of figuring out what this new school year is going to look like for our 7th grader. And school has finally come down with, we are going to be doing virtual for the first 9 weeks at least. So we thought it'd be a great kind of timely discussion about how we're going to manage this upcoming school year and all of the things we're learning and what our plans are as far as keeping things in order here.
Right. I know we're not alone in this either. I mean, there's so many conversations I've had with other moms about what they're choosing to do or maybe what was chosen for them. Like for us, the school district actually chose that everyone would be virtual for at least the first 9 weeks.
Yeah, after sending out a survey.
Well, we had a survey, in quotations. I'm not really sure, if that survey was just to kind of appease everybody. Who knows? But they are going to go virtual at least for the first 9 weeks. And, there's no manual for this because it's brand new to all of us. And so in conversations that I've had, some moms are, considering homeschooling. Some of them are obviously going to kind of go through the same situation that we're going through and trying to figure out the virtual learning. And then others are actually, depending on the school, bringing students back, but with restrictions, of course, for social distancing. So, it's a really unique time. But we thought it would be good just to share some of the things that we're going to be implementing for our middle schooler and, like we said, who's going virtual for the first 9 weeks. Because it's situations like this where we need to think creatively and collaborate together, not only as husband and wife, but with other parents, other couples. We all need to help each other out with ideas around how we can make some lemonade out of these lemons of 2020.
Indeed. Yeah, so we'll kind of give a quick background on our experience, which doesn't sound like, like you said, in talking with other moms or hearing and reading, probably not too dissimilar from what a lot of you guys have gone through in the past spring and then, what you're going through now.
Right.
For us, they shut everything down in very quick order, tried to set up Zoom calls, and everybody was, supposed to do Google Classroom and these types of things. And it was kind of mildly funny, but also kind of chaotic at first.
It was complete chaos. And
it was actually it was funny. So the first Zoom call that they did, or the first Google Classrooms, these kids hadn't seen each other in a couple weeks at that point. So, and they've never been on a class, like a Google Classroom or any type of like virtual, other than maybe FaceTime.
Right.
It was chaos. And the teacher had set it up so that every time whoever was speaking, that person's screen flashed,
so
which
would pop up as the
they would pop
speaker.
up, right, which is fine in a professional business setting where it's, people as adults, you tend to not talk over each other.
Right.
Instead, it was every kid talking over each other and popping up, and then one kid had
look at my pet.
Yeah, one kid's
my
like,
dog.
I have a voice changer. Can I use my voice changer? And the teacher's like, no, Billy Bob or whatever his name was. You cannot. And then, of course, he used it anyways.
All of a sudden, you hear a robotic voice coming through.
Oh, my gosh. We laughed. And, they got through it. And I think that there was definitely a lot of learning lessons on their end and on our end. And that's what we really want to talk about now. So our school district had sent out an online survey asking us what our preferences were. I have to really be careful here because I want to be critical, but that's not really beneficial. I think, because if you really, honestly, I think these school districts have a lot of pressure on them. They are trying to appease everybody.
It's a lot to manage.
And there's no real good answer here because, if you go one direction, there's going to be complaints. If you go another direction, there's really no way to make. So with that said, I'm still a little frustrated with some of this, but we are where we are. So our school district sent out a survey, pretty extensive, asked a lot of good questions, and then seemingly did whatever they wanted to do anyways. So I don't know if it was.
I feel like the choice had already been made, which is fine. I would rather just take this as we chose, but.
Yeah, so the school had put out a few things that some people actually raised some pretty legit objections to. Was one of the things that they were concerned about.
What's that?
Was it was kind of buried in some of the terms and conditions, if you will, that they were looking at if they did go back to school and a kid tested positive, that they would notify the Department of Health to set up contact tracing, meaning they would go then find out who that kid's been around and potentially put adults at risk of losing their jobs if there was legitimate concern around some of these things. I completely understand that, but
that's understandable. And that's
overall, so we got a note via email that they're going to go all virtual. So
still
that's where we're
waiting
at.
on some more details right now, but they confirmed that,
absolutely.
and they have also confirmed it will be a full day. Right.
Yeah, we'll talk. Yeah, I was going to talk about that kind of in the structure, which is actually helpful, right? Because that was one of the things we struggled with in the spring, was that structure. It was kind of hit or miss. When days were what? Some days were this subject. The next day was this subject. Sometimes.
It was constantly changing. It felt like, yeah.
Yeah, so it was definitely a struggle. So with that said, our goal is to kind of spend the rest of this time really talking about what we've learned and talking and researching, and then what we plan to do for our son as he heads into this spring. Yeah. And let's go from there.
Yeah. So one of the things that I know that I thought about, just kind of, and we talked about it briefly, we both have used different forms of technology for work. And if you think about it, when we were in school, we didn't use laptops or any type of video conferencing, Skype for Business, Google Classroom, Zoom, whatever. We had to learn all those things as an adult. These kids are actually getting a leg up on how to communicate. Not that it did not obviously go seamlessly this last bout, but this is a really great way for them to learn firsthand how to communicate through technology. And also the other thing I was thinking about around that is self-discipline. When your kid wakes up, they get on the bus or you take them to school, that day, obviously, once they get through that first week and they know their schedule, there's already a format of what their week's going to look like, where they're at from, 8 till noon, their lunch break, who they sit with, all of those things.
Very structured.
Yeah, kids thrive on structure. They need structure.
Especially boys.
Oh, definitely. Our boys need structure.
It's a proven thing. Like,
it is.
One of the most dangerous things for teenage boys is idle time.
I think for anybody, idle time can probably be a negative thing.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, definitely for teenage boys. It's significantly more detrimental when there's idle time in their lives.
Right.
So self-discipline.
It'll help them to learn self-discipline, but as parents, you and I think we've already decided we really want to make sure that we are creating a structure that he's not necessarily going to have or naturally have that he would have if he were going to school, to a classroom, going to his locker and getting his books and going to the next class. We want to create that structure at home. So what is that going to look like now, at least for the first 9 weeks?
Right.
What will that look like in our home?
Yep.
So I think we talked about, creating a schedule, which we were going to do a printout. We created this really, a really large cork board over an area that we're going to create as a workspace. I'm definitely going to share images on the Instagram, kind of a breakdown. If you follow us on Instagram, I do share all of those things on the Destination Home tab. So I'm going to give a breakdown. I'll show before, so you can definitely see the chaos that it is now, and how I'm going to break it down, and also really for it to be cost effective, because we're not in a time right now where we're going to just blow all kinds of money on creating a workspace just for 9 weeks. But we want to create a schedule and also create that space so they feel like they're physically going to class. So no jammies, no sleeping in. You're getting a shower, you're getting dressed, and you're going to school.
Yeah, just like you would if he was going to getting on the bus. He's up. He's showered, eats breakfast, time for school.
Right.
Yeah, I completely agree. So I think that one of the key things, and a little bit it's TBD, but we did get a note from the school district that they're going to do a full 7-hour schedule. But obviously we're not going to send them to extracurricular stuff, like there's not going to be PE. There might be. They tried to do PE last spring, and it was like, oh, go out and run for 15 minutes and like make a note of it.
Yeah, it was like,
it just wasn't.
Hey, go do this.
Yeah,
but it wasn't interacting with other kids.
No, and that's the biggest concern I have in all of this is social development for him, right?
Same.
And so we'll talk about that a little bit, some ideas, but. Yeah, so they're going to have a full 7-hour schedule, which is good because that was one of the big struggles we had is in the spring was the amount of time that he had to commit to school. He did a lot of it. Dylan's a pretty quick learner, so he would fly through some of the projects and things and be done in very short order. And they weren't very structured. And I don't think they're going to admit it. But
I don't think that works for every student either. Dylan
so what's
did
that
very
balance?
Well, but, that's probably detrimental to other kids, you know, not having that consistency.
So I think that once we kind of once they show us what the schedule looks like, we'll be able to build that into our schedule. But I absolutely am happy that they are going to be very consistent. And, the teachers are getting paid, whether they are physically teaching the students or not. So I think I'm going to be pretty persistent as needed to make sure that they're, following through on their end as far as the structure and the curriculum and the class. They've had all summer to prepare and utilize all the technologies out there. It should not be chaos.
Right, and there's so many different forms of technology now to use to have that interaction with the students. But I agree, we want to make sure that these students, regardless of what the situation is, that they're not falling behind. I mean, middle school is laying the groundwork for those high school years.
Yeah,
it's a
foundational
really
educationally.
Time. 7th and 8th grade. I mean, this is really going to tee up where he is when it comes to math, English, AP classes, you name it.
So let's talk a little bit more about the space that we're going to use. So we're, Jackie mentioned before and after, so it's actually a place in our kitchen that is kind of off the side of the kitchen. That's kind of it's a built-in little desk area.
Yeah.
That ends up being like a catch-all. Right? It's like, we'll get to that, so we'll throw it over on there. I would
share the pictures.
I mean, it's not, it's not too bad, but it certainly wasn't conducive for a 7th grader to learn. So that's our space that we're going to kind of work on.
Yeah. But the good thing is, when you're looking at this space, it's definitely away from the distractions of like video games,
Indeed.
TV. It's not near any of his, anything that would be a toy for a kid. I didn't want to have a space where they could be looking around the room like, oh, I'd rather be doing that. So it is a designated space. So we're going to try to mandate a really strict schedule and then creating a space that, like I said, is really for work. It's not for play. It's not for sleep. And I also want it to be a creative space. I mean, I don't know if you remember, but especially when you're younger, I don't think we really cared that much in high school, but let's say even middle school, when you walk into the school and you see like the fresh cork boards and they're decorated in the classrooms that were always really, like you felt instantly excited to be in that classroom. It was engaging. Did you care?
No, I didn't care, but I'm laughing because...
Okay, well, I know I'm not alone. Somebody, please.
No, I understand what you mean. Like it's an atmosphere that kind of helps to kind of facilitate the learning is really what it's all about, right?
I think so.
We let him, because it was kind of hit or miss with the Google Classrooms and stuff. A lot of times he did it on his bed, which he was nice and comfortable, but I think he kind of, in the spring at least, that's what we really wanted to get away from. Like you said, we're no distractions. His phone won't be by his side, so he can watch YouTube while he's learning. Like everything's going to be very structured as if it was at his class.
Right. No, it's going to be a designated workspace. So, when I'm looking at the space right now, I want to make it inviting. So, even though that's not something that maybe you're looking at, I know you're thinking
so what are you going to do,
babe? Functionally. So we have the desk, but they have different cabinets and drawers, and I want to make it very organized for him, but also kind of colorful as well. So everything organized as far as the pencils, the pens, everything he'll need. I want the corkboard to have different things about also activities, things that he has to look forward to. And I think if we're having a 7-hour workday, a full workday, one of the things that I want to implement is I want there to be a break, for lunchtime.
Yep.
And I want it to be a creative lunch, like a good lunchtime where he can do something that he enjoys, but I want him to have, because he's not going to have a lunch break with all of his friends.
Yeah.
Everybody looks forward to lunch, you know, when you're sitting and talking with your friends and catching up and, you know, just chatting about whatever middle schools chat about. He's not going to have that. So I want to make sure that, you know, he's having a great breakfast, having a good lunch, and also creating things on the corkboard that he has to look forward to. You know, there has to be some form of incentive because he doesn't have band, he doesn't have PE. There's not other sports right now with the school right now. But, you know, 9 weeks is a long time for kids. I mean, 9 weeks is long for me, but like for a kid, that seems like ages, right?
So you had done a little kind of asking around, and there were some suggestions about that like the Dollar Trees and places like that right now are just like
Right.
loading up on supplies since so many schools are going virtual.
Yeah, so stores like Dollar Tree, for whatever reason, you know, Dollar Tree over the years, they'll have some school supplies, but it's never really a huge surplus. Or, you know, there's some items you're like, you know. But this year, they obviously took note. They recognized that this is a huge need. A lot of people are having to go virtual, or they're choosing to homeschool. And so, and the other thing is, of course, everyone right now is probably on a tighter budget, you know. And so Dollar Tree, if you're looking for items right now, that's a great go-to.
Like a lot of the little knickknacks and stickers and little
stickers, calendars, you know, different things that kids would like to use, you know, fun erasers, markers, you know, all of the writing utensils. You can find any one of those. They probably have more for younger kids. So if you're, you know, if you have an elementary age student, you're probably going to find more at Dollar Tree. But I am going to use a lot of creative things either from Dollar Tree. I'm sure I'm going to implement some Amazon products, maybe some Target stuff. It's all going to be really affordable. Again, I'm not trying to break the bank on this creative workspace.
Right.
But I do want to have it really organized, and I want him to feel excited about his workspace.
Yeah. And we're in a, you know, we're able to kind of designate an older laptop that's going to be the school laptop.
Right.
Period. It doesn't leave. Yeah, it doesn't leave the space there. He's not going to be taking it around. Maybe, you know, if he's got to write something, if he wants to go on the back porch or, you know, somewhere else to type, if he's got to write up an essay or whatever. But it's designated for that so that it's, you know, that he has that that commitment there. So I think, you know, there's some great ideas around the space and, you know, setting it up and having those little things to kind of make it really inducive for good learning, you know. One of the thing I'm most concerned about, I'll be honest.
What's that?
Is the other stuff, is the social, is the physical part of
Yeah.
you know, being
Not
a seventh
being able
grader.
to get involved. Yeah.
Right, you know, because daily PE is a real thing. It's an important thing for a seventh grade boy.
And building those relationships,
Yeah.
learning those social skills. Middle school, I feel like, is kind of, it's already an awkward time.
Yeah, it's hard.
I was awkward, but
You were
probably
never
weren't.
awkward.
You
I'm buck
You were,
teeth
like,
and curly
cool,
red hair. No, I was
An
awkward.
athlete. Everybody wanted to be your friend.
Still awkward. Still awkward. So there's a few things that we're kind of looking at. A couple things I'm pretty excited about. Luckily, I think some of his local friends, the parents are pretty laid back, not laid back, but reasonable. And they've been able to hang out this summer and, you know, spend the night and, you know, ride bikes. And there's nobody like, no, that kid needs to be in a bubble. But so hopefully we can continue a lot of that as the fall, you know, gets up and running here.
Yeah, because activity or being active in general, I mean, obviously it's going to be really important for any kid.
And we work from home, so we recognize we have an advantage there as far as being able to do some of those things. You know, so we're not coming down on anybody that you know has work challenges or
No,
being
not
able.
At all. Absolutely not.
We're just trying to stay focused on that for him because it's easy to not focus on, to lose sight of those things. So some of the things that we've talked about are, you know, like going trail running or riding bikes. There's a couple parks here locally and grabbing a couple of the kids and just going, right?
There's
Staying active.
What's that ropes course? There's a ropes course.
Yeah,
that's
like a
not too
ropes
far.
course down in
Okay,
Virginia
we're
Beach
trying to do
area.
that.
Yeah. We
but-
also, a couple things that are not necessarily physical activities, you know, because he is playing soccer and, you know, all those things. Luckily that they haven't shut all that stuff down. But two things that we're going to do with Dylan is, first, we're going to sign him up for a coding class, you know, kind of almost like an not really an extracurricular, but like what's it called? Elective class. An elective class.
That we chose for him.
That we chose for him. One, because he just needs to learn the technology, get a leg up on that. And
Yeah, I mean,
and
if
I'm
anything-
willing to pay a little bit to have a more structured class that has kind of benchmarks and tests and
Right.
there's all sorts of free coding classes online, but maybe if there's some that keep your progress and actually kind of challenge you versus just learn as you go, and kind of, I think if you know that you have tests coming, you tend to focus more. But
Right.
And then like another one is like an emergency first aid course that
Yeah.
I want to take with them. Just
I think that would be great.
right, just that's great knowledge to have. Period. Is what do you do in an emergency situation? I've been in some where I froze. Like I didn't realize
Don't do that.
what I needed to don't freeze. No, I mean there was a situation
Step
where
one.
don't freeze. Know what you do,
You're not
right?
helping
But you know
anyone.
what? In those situations, I mean, most of the time people don't know what to do. They freeze if they're not prepared for it. So, I think it'd be really important for him to learn that those kind of things.
I
Right?
agree. I think that'd be
We'd
great.
love to hear feedback from you guys.
Yeah, and I think also because we are working from home, and some of you are also working from home due to COVID. Your company, and I know several companies right now that are keeping their employees remote. So sometimes there can be creative things that we can do as field trips. Think about it. Your kid's not going to have a field trip to look forward to. Typically, there's always a fall field trip. So I wanted to think of something cool that we could do around a field trip, depending on where you live. There's some really cool places that I thought maybe we could go for, like apple picking, or just there's historical places too that we could possibly, not that he loves, but I'm saying a field trip. You can learn something.
Good trip
here.
to Jamestown again. Yeah, there you go.
So that's probably something that we'll look into as well. I do want to mention that in some of my conversations with other moms, other parents, kudos to the moms that have chosen to go with the homeschooling route. And, they've chosen that because of, maybe their school district was having certain restrictions with the social distancing that they thought might be challenging for their elementary school student. Or, maybe there were some other challenges around, transportation. I mean, there's so many different things right now, people having to work from home. And so I know moms that have decided to go the homeschooling route. That's not really what we're not going with the homeschooling. But I do have some resources that were shared with me that I would love to share on the Destination Marriage Instagram. So definitely go there and I'll share those links. I'll definitely give a shout out to the mom that had shared that with me, so maybe you can connect with her. But like I said earlier, this is really going to be a time for us to together, not only as husband and wife, but along with other parents, kind of collaborate and be creative. Because this is, and who knows, this may go further on than 9 weeks.
Yeah, because if what they're predicting happens in the fall, when we get the normal flu season kind of ramps up, and we could get a resurgence of this, a more aggressive resurgence.
Yeah.
If our governor has any history,
Yeah.
For us, it'll end up being a complete lockdown.
Yeah,
but,
I feel confident that's probably what will happen here.
So, yeah.
But either way, there's going to be changes whether your students are returning to school, if you're homeschooling, or if you are going through virtual learning.
Yeah.
We just really thought it would be a great time to talk about it because we've just been having these conversations over the last week, and we recognize we made some mistakes, and we don't want to repeat that. We want to make sure that our child, just like you do, you want to make sure your child gets the best education possible.
And I think, as we are all kind of in this together, maybe take some cues from the homeschooling community. They've done a fantastic job over the last few years of really, advancing that whole kind of method for teaching kids. It's because they've utilized technology to build kind of networks and people and groups. So, maybe take that cue and look on Facebook groups, things. If you're struggling with what to do with your kids in your local community, look online. There's so many resources. There's so many things that
a lot of good co-op groups.
Yeah,
they call them
co-op. Yeah, so that maybe it's not the homeschool direct avenue, right? Because it's virtual learning or whatever. But I think that there's take advantage of the resources that are there and do some searching. And also for emotional support, not just for ideas, and because this is tough.
Yeah.
And,
or maybe create your own Facebook group in your local area. If there's not one, your child is virtual learning, where you can get together with other moms to, maybe have, a pizza night, or go on a field trip together.
A coronavirus party.
I mean, I don't know if I would call it a coronavirus party, but you get they could do a movie night or whatever you're comfortable with. Go to the park, do a PE class.
Yeah.
It may take just someone being the first person to speak up and say, hey, why don't we put something together?
Maybe that gives some parent some relief, if you pick up their kid and take them for a few hours, and vice versa, right? Because if there's scheduling conflicts and they get called into work, or have other little ones, because it's probably a little harder for the little ones. At least our guy's 7th grade, he's a little more self-sufficient.
Yeah, you don't have a house full of littles. That's definitely a whole other
challenge. So that's a whole different animal, right? Yeah. But anyhow, we'd love to get your feedback. Like Jackie said, on our Destination Marriage Instagram page is where we'll post a lot of this information and some of the resources that we found. Yeah. Some pics and some ideas in our soon-to-be completed workspace for our 7th grader.
Yeah, it's going to take me a couple of weeks, but I'll share the pictures as we go along from start to finish. I will definitely share the before. It's not terrible, but it's not really a good workspace right now.
Well, listen, best of luck to everybody as you kind of trudge through these unknown waters here that we're all kind of swimming through, uncharted waters, right? There's a lot of resources out there. Hopefully we can provide some of them, and hopefully we can be some value to you guys. But we'll all get through this.
Yeah,
we'll all
and
look
hats
back
off
on
to
this.
everybody who has had to make this decision, whether it's the homeschooling, the virtual learning, returning their child to school. I mean, this is definitely not an easy task. So we definitely want everyone to succeed. Your student, every family, husband and wife. We don't want this to cause any level of stress that's unneeded. So hopefully we can help each other out. But thanks again for listening, and be sure to tune in to our next episode.
Absolutely. All right. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
We hope you enjoyed this episode, and if so, please continue to listen on Podbean, iTunes, or Spotify, and hit subscribe. Also, visit us at destinationmarriagepodcast.com. Follow us on Instagram at destination_marriage, and be sure to tune in to our next episode.